What is good? I am checking in the shaggy blonde polar bear. As you can see, I definitely need to get a haircut. Don't know when I will, but eventually someday I will, of course. As with so many other things, there's always a someday. I just got back from day at NPTI wearing the Just Chillin' shirt. I'm going to try and aim to do 20 test review questions every day up until Saturday, because by that time I'll have reached the 100 questions, and probably starting sometime on Saturday into Sunday, I'll start actually going over all the 100 questions that I have inputted into my Quizlet program, so it'll send me random questions, and then I'll do multiple choice with it. So it's a good way I found over the entire program to really practice for the exams themselves. And by Wednesday, I'll be well prepared, so I'm all good to go at this point. It's just a matter of starting. I've done 2 questions so far, so I got 18 more for the day. And then later on today, hopefully, I'm going to go out with some friends, and we're going to just go out, hang out, and eat at a restaurant of some sorts. And then maybe, possibly, if it's not too late, go for a skate, because it's been several nights since I've done it. And that's pretty much it. So pretty normal day, as they always are, but what it really is normal to me might not be normal to other people. Of course, it's all about perspective. So let's see, any quick thoughts? Podcast wise, I haven't really been listening to too much podcasts other than like the past week or so. I've been listening to 2 podcasts several times over that dealt with cryotherapy to help me just kind of retain the information better. It certainly helps me listening to podcasts that do talk about certain subject matters, and I listen to them over several occasions, and I most certainly retain the information as far as being able to regurgitate and talk about it with other people much better, opposed to just either writing it down or even, I guess it's about the same podcast, so audio and visual, I learn best that way. Just about the past day, I've been listening to one of my comedy podcasts, which is Kill Tony. I've talked about it before. It's a podcast where the host, who is a professional stand-up comedian, Tony Hinchcliffe, he does a live podcast, and they also stream it too on internet site in Los Angeles, where they have comedians put their name in a bowl. They draw the comedian's name. The comedian then performs a 1-minute set, and then after that 1-minute set is up, the host and the guest that he has on for that night, so there's usually a couple of repeat guests every single week, but also new guests that come in, and they usually just comment on that comedian's performance, as well as also just learn more and essentially learn about him, and I would say creatively joke on him, or add more jokes to their could be like appearance or just past experiences from what that comedian talks about. So I just really find it as a good way to learn of different creative approaches as far as joke building goes. I'm not saying I'm anywhere at that level, of course I'm not, but I really enjoy just hearing and just trying to put all the pieces together with how they came to that creative process. It's something I've really enjoyed back in Australia, and even when I was in Arizona, I've been to, I want to say 6, 7, or 8, somewhere between 6 or 8 stand-up comedy shows, and I really enjoy seeing live comedy. I would say it would be a hobby of mine too, as far as following comedians. I haven't done it so much since I've been back in Florida, but when I was in Australia, there were times I'd literally just go by myself to a stand-up comedy club, and I really enjoyed it. First off, being in a live atmosphere crowd, seeing how they were just focused and attentive to a person on stage with no real props or anything like that, and just focusing on what they had to say with their voice and a mic, basically. So just how the stand-up comedian themselves had to be very captivating, had to be very flamboyant a lot of times, and just had to be really concise, detailed, oriented with what the material they were presenting to the audience. And I most certainly got a lot of laughs while being in Sydney, Australia. The comedy store I went to was called the Sydney Comedy Store. I think that was just a basic name, but it's really world famous, and by far the best performer I saw was actually an American called Don Irera, and he, for anybody out there that might know him, he's been doing stand-up comedy for a long period of time. He's also been an actor on several shows, TV shows. Probably his most famous, I would want to say, was a role he had when he was on Seinfeld, and also I want to say there's other ones, but I'm not specifically sure, so I'm not going to make that error if there is. But he is somebody I most certainly enjoyed when I was in Australia, being able to watch. And I know there's a pretty decent scene, too, in Florida. I just haven't obviously had time or the resources to be able to do so. Also, along with stand-up comedy, I really also enjoyed doing improv. When I was in Sydney, Australia, I did an improv class for, I'm trying to think how long it went. It probably went about 8 weeks or so about 2 months of solid beginner 1 level improv class. So it dealt with showing up once a week and doing class for 3 or 3.5 hours. I want to say it was 3 hours, but I'm crazy how that was like just in what was that, May? That was in May and June, essentially. So I don't even remember how long the class was. I'm pretty sure it was 3 hours, basically. So once a week for 3 hours, get together with essentially local Sydneyans. I don't even think that's how you'd call a local person who lives in Sydney, but I'm going to call them that right now. So local Sydneyans. And the really great thing I liked about it is it allowed me to meet local people when I was in Australia, because primarily the school I went to, it was an international school, and a lot of people in my situations would actually just hang out with other exchange students. So there was at least like 1,000 students from the U.S. studying at that school. So a lot of them would get stuck in the habit of just primarily sticking in these small groups as far as hanging out with other people from your country, and that doesn't really make sense. It's small-minded thinking, in my opinion. So to get back on track, I really like doing improv. I did improv there for, like I said, 6 to 8 weeks. Can't really remember for sure what it was, but once a week I met with local people who lived in Sydney, got to know them really well, and had a great time. It was essentially just adult playtime. We would do all these different type of improv games, as well as team building and communication skills, and I definitely felt like I grew from it as a person, and really helped me with being able to showcase projecting my voice and just being quick-witted when it came to subject matters that you were given, and just the unpredictability about it all together. And I did that, and at the end, you actually get to perform in a show with your group that you went to class with in front of a live audience, and that was really fun within itself. It was mainly you get a lineup in the back of the stage, and the audience gives you topics, and then whoever wants to that's in that line in the backstage just walks in the front of the stage and talks and goes right into a scene with that subject matter. And I would say definitely that night I probably performed, because it was probably maybe like an hour and a half long, and there's different other classes performing too. I want to say at least 5 to 6 or 7 times I probably went in front of the stage to take on the topic that was given. So it was a really fun experience. There's obviously there's a lot of other games you play improv wise. They're very fun. And then when I came back here to Orlando, or when I came back to the States, and then in Orlando for a little bit, I was doing an improv class here, which was also, again, beginner 1 because it's a different school. But I only did that for about 4 weeks just because it's becoming hard to bring a solid amount of mental energy and quality that I would want, that would meet kind of my standard, at least, to meet the class level. So I would just find I'm essentially becoming straight from finishing school to improv, and not that I was drastically tired or anything, but just my mental creative ability was hampered, I would say, just going from school to that. and I'd either have to maybe like dabble with like change of nutrition or something else along those matters, but my creative energy was just not there, so I decided to just not continue with it and just place my time into other things. But it's not to say that I didn't dislike it or anything. It was just, I guess, my mental energy just wasn't all there when I was showing up for classes. But there was definitely a drastic difference between the class I took in Australia versus the class I took here in Florida. The one in Florida was a more game-based right off the bat as far as how you play as an improv player to your other teammates. And it didn't really focus so strongly as far as building. It didn't focus so much on team building as the other one in Australia, so I felt like I was able to get closer, tighter knit with the other group in Australia versus the one here in Florida. And that might just be because the class that I was in, a good portion of them, like maybe half or so of the class, already kind of knew each other right off the bat. They work at Universal here in Orlando, and they already have kind of an acting background. So right off the bat, I could definitely tell you the class I took here in Orlando, the talent-wise, it was extremely much higher than as far as improv and acting goes, performers go, than it was back in Australia. And I'll be honest, I definitely felt like I was the least talented in that sense. But it's good to be in a situation like that where you're chasing to perform to the level of the rest of the class kind of thing. It's just when you're not, I guess, all mentally ready to be able to do it, could be definitely tough, I would say. So I definitely learned in that aspect as far as being able to manage with that and just recognize it. I definitely recognized it at the time. I just kind of realized I could use my time to either rest during that period or just kind of work on doing some other things besides that. So looking forward to when I'm getting more situated here to do another improv class, because it's a great way to meet people, of course, and just have a fun adult playtime. That's how I see it. And I highly recommend anybody do improv. It's a really neat hobby, activity, and just all around fun time, because who doesn't want to laugh? You're definitely going to laugh when you're in improv class. Anyway, that's my spiel. Not really spiel, but talking moment. And I will do another update here to come for the Daily Xander number 33. Stay tuned.